Alright, good afternoon class. Today we'll be doing the lecture as it relates to manufacturing account, right? So we'll be doing the lecture as it relates to manufacturing account. We'll be defining our manufacturing account, looking at the components of manufacturing account, and picking apart each of them. Alright, so manufacturing account, alright? Manufacturing account. Manufacturing account, or we prepare a manufacturing account for industries that are involved in production. So we prepare a manufacturing account for industries that are involved in production, meaning that they're producing, right? They're converting goods from raw material to finished product, right? They're converting goods from raw material to finished product, right? And the statement that you would have prepared for those type of companies or for that type of industry is a manufacturing account, because they're what? They're making products. They're producing, right? So you prepare what is known as a manufacturing account. Alright, now I want to look at components of the manufacturing account, or what we could refer to as elements of the manufacturing account. Alright, so components are elements of the manufacturing account. Direct costs, so direct costs are a component, indirect costs, and work in progress. Right, so we have our direct costs there, your direct costs plus your indirect costs plus your work in progress, that is work in progress at the start, minus your work in progress at the end, will give you what is known as your production cost. Now we'll speak about work in progress in a few. Alright? But I want you to also understand that in the event that there were no work in progress, so in the event that there were no work in progress, it would have been your direct cost plus your indirect cost to give you your production cost. Now let us look at what we make reference to as direct costs. What are direct costs? Direct costs make reference to costs that are easily traced back to production. Right? It makes reference to costs that are what? Easily traced back to production. Right? Those costs that you can really readily align with the production. Right? So take for example, if you're a furniture store or if you're a furniture company, right? So you're making dresser, you're making furnitures, right? One of the dressers that you're making is say for one of the furnitures that you're making is say dresser. Now, assuming that it requires say 5 foot or 5 feet of lumber, right, to make a dresser. If it requires 5 feet of lumber to make a dresser, it therefore means that if you used up 100 feet, if you had used up 100 feet foot, right? If you had used up 100 feet of lumber, right? It therefore means that you would have made what? 20 dresser. Because if it takes 5 feet to make a dresser, it is safe to say that if you had used up a total of 100 feet, you would have made what? 20 dresser. Alright? 5 into 100, because it requires what? It requires what? 5 feet to make a dresser. So 5 into 100 gives what? 20. So the assumption there that you would have made what? 20 dresser. So that is what we're saying as it relates to direct material. You can what? Readily trace it back to production. Alright? You can readily trace it back to production. Alright? It could have been the fast food industry. It could have been also in the fast food industry. Take for example a KFC, right? When they buy chicken, they can they could say that okay, 10 boxes of chicken, or however 10 boxes of chicken, or if they may say 100 pounds of chicken, right, should equate to say $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000, right? They can easily what? Trace it back to production. Now next of which we have what is known as our what? Direct labor, right? Next of which we have what is known as our direct labor. Now remember what direct cost is by definition, are those costs that can be what? Easily traced back to production. Now if we're looking at direct labor, and we want to take the furniture company for example again, right? In direct labor, take you may be paying one of your workmen, meaning that the person who's making the dresser. Take for example, you're paying one of them, say for example $5,000 per dresser. You're paying them what? $5,000 to make a dresser. It therefore means that if at the end of the day, right, if it's at the end of the day, the end of the week, or the end of the month, you would have paid out to those persons who would have made the dresser, say $100,000, right? again you pay them out $100,000. Now we are paying what? $5,000 per dresser. So therefore it would be safe to say that they would have made a total of what? 20 dresser. Right? Again, it would be safe to say that they would have made a total of 20 dresser because you're paying them what? $5,000 to make a dresser for you. Right? So you see whereby you can easily refer it back to production. So that is what we call your direct costs. Those costs that can be easily traced back to production. So you can say, okay, the reason why I pay out $100,000 is because I would have asked my workmen, which they would have delivered 20 dresser to us, and we're paying them what? $5,000 a dresser. So the direct labor, what we call direct wages, refers to those labor or wages that can be easily traced back to production. Next of which we have what is known as what? Direct expense. Right? Next of which that we have what is known as direct expense. And if you're making reference also to the furniture store, a direct expense as it relates to that, right? A direct expense as it relates to the furniture store could have been, you may require a particular, say for example, to make the dresser foot, the foot on the dresser, right? That lower part there, right? You may require a certain machine to turn that board, right? So you have to, in furniture store, they said that send it to the turning shop, right? So you might send the lumber there, right? And for them to turn it, right? Those fancy turning, right? To get the dresser foot. You don't have that machinery. So you have to send it to another business place, you name it, right? To turn those foot. No, you're paying that company. Take for example, you're paying that company $10 to turn a foot. Right? You're paying that company $10 to turn a foot. It simply means that at the end of the day, if you have paid them a total of say $1,000, it therefore means that they would have turned how many foot? 100. Right? It therefore means that they would have turned what? 100, right? So direct expense again can be what? Easily traced back to production, right? So the bed foot or the dresser foot, right? You want it to be creative, not just flat. You want it to be creative, so it has a style and fashion about it. You have to send it to another company that have the machinery so that they can do so, right? And you're paying them $10 per. So it therefore means that if you pay them a total of $1,000, it's safe to say that they would have turned what? 100 of them for you. Alright? Now I want to continue as it relates to direct expense. In manufacturing account, as it relates to direct expense, right? Some examples of direct expense are known as what we call royalties. Right? Examples of direct expense are known as what we call royalties, right? Royalty, right? So, what we call P-A-T-E-N-T, patent, or some persons pronounce that patent, right? So P-A-T-E-N-T, patent, and as I said to you, that some persons pronounce it as what? Patent, and also what we call what? Franchise. Also what we call franchise, right? These are all examples of direct expense. Right? Now, in no particular order, if you speak about franchise would make reference to take, for example, a KFC, right? We'll take, for example, a KFC. Now, the KFC locally are run by the Mayers family, right? They're run by the Mayers family. They're not the owner, but they have a franchise license that give them the right to sell KFC, right? So the KFC that you'll taste would have the same ingredients. The stores, meaning that their location, their companies, etc., would look the same in terms of the red and white building, their advertisement, etc., would look the same, right? And they pay for such. So they would pay to the mother company, right? Which just says the kernel, right? They would pay to the mother company a franchise fee. So right, so they would acquire a franchise license. Be it they're paying it per year, every 5 years, whatever time frame they're paying it for. But that would be an example of what? A direct expense. Another is what we call what? Patent, or some persons pronounce it as what? Patent. Now this comes about for persons who use their creativity or their development. They would have developed a product or the know-how to do something. Now it is their intervention, right? It is their intervention, and what they can do once they come up with something, they can pretty much what? License such. Now a patent basically they can license a patent for what? 20 years. It therefore means that no one else can use your creativity, right, without your permission, right? So no one else can piggyback on your creativity without your permission, right, or without paying you for doing so, right? So you would have licensed it, right? You would have licensed it, right? And remember I said to you that it's for what? Pretty much can be licensed for what? Up to 20 years. Now you'll mostly find pain in the pharmaceutical industry, right? For those persons who make drugs, right? Medicine, medications. Right, so they come up with the know-how to reduce headache, you name it, right? And they make that pill. It involves X amount of ingredients, ingredients X, ingredients Y, ingredients Z, right? Now they can pretty much what? License such. So it therefore means that no other company can do so without their permission, unless that company wishes to purchase the right from them to do so, right? And if they wish to sell them that right, or sell the patent license to them, right? Outside of that, any other company wishes to use such or to use something in close proximity would have to wait out the 20 years period, right? Or they simply acquire the license, or purchase the patent from the developers, for the person who would have developed it. So patent basically protects one's creativity. So you come up with a know-how to do something, right? You can simply license it. You can simply license such. Alright, and as I said to you before, oftentimes you'll find this in the pharmaceutical industry, right? You'll find this in the pharmaceutical industry. We have also what we call royalties, right? We also what we call royalties. It's similar to patent, but mostly find royalties in the what? In the music industry, right? You'll mostly find royalties in the music industry. So those entertainers. As it relates to Jamaica, you'll hear they speak about JCAP, right? And if you're going to keep an event, a party, etc., right, you should pay a certain amount to JCAP, right? Because, and in return, JCAP would pay the entertainers, right? Assume that you would pay you'd play those their music, right? So they'll pay those popular entertainers. Right? So royalties in the States, and I believe also for Jamaica, but I know definitely this practice in the States. As it relates to the state, in the States, each time your music is played on the radio. So every time your music is played on the radio, right? They would have to what? Pay you, and you have persons who track such. As it relates to YouTube, right? Right? Every time you go on YouTube and you play one of those entertainers, you name it, right? They are what? They're paid at the end of the day, be it the end of the week, month, etc. Right? So you can track it and they will be paid. So that is known as what? Royalty. Right? So that pretty much will cover what we're known as our direct costs. And direct costs are made up of your direct material, direct labor, and your direct expense. What I want to also make reference to is what we call what? Prime costs. Now what is our prime cost? Right? Realize it is parallel to your direct costs, right? What are your prime costs? Your prime cost is all of your direct costs added together will give you your prime cost. So what is prime cost? When you add up all of your direct costs, you get what is known as your prime cost. So your direct material plus any direct labor, if there was any, plus any direct expense, if there were any, would give you what is known as your prime cost. So prime cost by definition is all your direct costs added together. Right? It equals all of your direct costs. Next of which you want to speak about are what? Secondly, our indirect costs. So secondly, we want to talk about our indirect costs. Now your indirect costs can also be made up of your indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expense. Right? Now, by definition, indirect costs make reference to those costs that are not easily traced back to production. Right? Indirect costs make reference to those costs that are not easily traced back to production. So therefore, the company incur these costs. But you cannot say, okay, it's because I produce X amount of furniture, why my material cost is that. You cannot readily trace it back to production. It's not easily traced back to production. Right? Now take, for example, if you're still in the furniture business, right? In the furniture business, indirect material could have been, take for example, the sandpaper that they purchase. Right? Now these sandpapers are used to smooth down the board. Right? To smooth down the dresser. Right? Or to smooth down the bed. Right? So you use those sandpaper. Now it may be hard to determine that, okay, I would have purchased say 100 sandpaper, and 100 sandpaper, you may say that will be able to sell, would be able to sand and smooth down 20 dresser. It may be hard to determine that, right? Because you may require more or you may require less. So what we're saying, indirect material are those materials that are not easily traced back to production, right? An example of that could have been the sandpaper. Also, it could have another in the furniture industry could have been the stain. The stain, right? That thing that they use to darken the color of the board, right? They call it stains, right? So they stain the board before, right? So before they stain before they spray in they spray the furniture and whatever color that they would want to spray it in, they pretty much stain it first, right? So they may they'll buy the stain. Now the stain is liquid that they use to stain the furniture. Now, the volume of stain that they would acquire, that they would have purchased, right? It may be hard to determine that, okay, X amount of stain or X amount of volume of stain, they may be hard to determine that X amount of volume of stain would be able to stain X amount of dresser. It may not be easy to determine, right? You may need less, you may need more. So it is not easily traced back to production. Alright, unlike when we spoke about direct material there. Another indirect cost could have been what we call indirect labor. Another indirect cost could have been indirect labor. Now you're running a furniture company, right? Now indirect labor could have been labor cost that has nothing directly to do with the making of the furniture, but those labor costs are there. Alright? So it could have been, take for example, your payroll officer. Now your payroll officer is not making the furniture. No, they're not making the furniture, but they are the persons who tabulate and calculate how much the workmen should be paid. Right? How much the workmen should be paid. Right? So that would have been an indirect labor there, or indirect wages. It may not be easy to trace back, or may not be able to trace back to how much dresser that was produced, but nevertheless that cost cannot be avoided. Right? Your payroll officer, those persons who work in the office. Now the person who made the dresser would have worked in the factory, but these persons who work in the office, right, and they tabulate or they calculate how much is paid, right, how much is paid, right, to those persons who works in the manufacturing or who works in the factory. So that would have been perhaps like an indirect labor. We could have another indirect labor, right? We could speak about cleaning and sanitation. So you have someone that cleans up the factory. You have a person that cleans up the factory, right? Keep the factory grounds clean, the bathroom, the area, etc., etc. Now, are they making any furniture? The answer is what? No. But nevertheless, they must be what? They must be paid, right? And they would have. And the only reason why you're incurring that cleaning cost of the factory is because you're doing what? Making furniture. Right? So it must be added to your furniture cost, but it falls under your what? Indirect cost, because it's not what? It's not what? Easily traced back to production. Alright? Next of which we have what is known as what? Indirect expense. We have what is known as our indirect expense, right? And indirect expense making reference again to those costs that are not easily traced back to production. And examples of these indirect expense could have been rent, right? So examples of these indirect expense could have been rent, right? So rent could have been one of them, Utilities, right? So utilities could also be another. So you have rent, you have utilities, depreciation. Now the depreciation that we're speaking about would have been for assets that are used in the factory. So take for example depreciation on equipment or depreciation on machinery, right? That would have been an indirect expense, right? That would have been an indirect expense. You may not be able to readily say that, okay, let's look at the first one, rent. Even if we don't produce, we would have still incur our rental costs, right? And if we produce 1,000 dresser, our rental costs, if we're paying 100,000 per month, would be 100,000. If you make 200 dresser, your rental cost would pretty much still be the same, right? So it is not shift or shaped by how much dresser that you make. So it is not easily traced back to production. You cannot say that, okay, my rent is X amount because I'm making 100 dresser or I'm making 200 dresser. That is why my rent is that. You cannot trace it back to production. Your utility cost, meaning that your water, your light, etc., right? You may not be able to trace that back to production. It is not easily traced back to production. Your security cost, because you perhaps may have security and install security cameras, etc., right? In the factory, right? These are also costs which are known as what? Indirect expense. You may not be able to what? Readily or easily trace it back to production, right? So you speak about rent, you speak about utilities, you speak about depreciation on those factory equipment or machinery, you speak about security costs, etc. All of those would have fall under the category of what we call indirect expense, right? Now, all of your indirect expense added together, so your indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expense, all of your indirect costs added together, which is your indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expense, would give you what is known as your what? Factory overheads, right? Will give you what is known as your factory overheads. Right? And if there was no work in progress, your prime cost, meaning that all of your direct costs added together, plus your factory overheads, which is all of your indirect costs added together. So your prime cost, if your prime cost was $100, your factory overheads or your indirect cost, say for example was 50, right? And if there were no work in progress, it therefore means that your production cost would have been what? 150. Your production cost would have been 150, provided that there were no work in progress. But we want to look at what work in progress is now. Now we're looking at what? Work in progress, right? Some people refer to it as work in process. Right? Some people refer to it as work in process. Right? So work in progress. As I suggest, if we read it slowly, work in progress. So it is what? It is in progress. Right? So it makes reference to these what? Unfinished jobs. It makes reference to these what? Unfinished jobs. Right? So jobs that are what? Incomplete. Right? So whatever dimension that it is, it's not 100% complete. So it is not fully complete, right? So it therefore means that it makes reference to those jobs that are incomplete. Now, what we do, we add work in progress at the start and we less work in progress at the end. Now we know what work in progress is, right? It is your what? Incomplete job. Or your we make reference to your incomplete job or your unfinished goods, unfinished work. Right? Now if you're in the year, say for example, if you're in the year 2002, your financial statement ends December the 31st, 2002. Right? Your financial statement ends December the 31st, 2002. Right? And take for example, you had some dress up that you would have made in 2001. But guess what? They're not complete as yet because you didn't spray them. You didn't spray those dress up. Right, so for it to be fully ready, for it to be finished, right, it would have been shaped up, etc., but you haven't sprayed it as yet. So they make reference to what? Incomplete job, right? And those dresses are for what? 2001. The assumption there, in the year 2002, those unfinished dresser as at December the 31st, 2001 would have been the first dresser that you're going to work on. So it therefore means that it's going to go on. You're going to complete it in the year 2002. Right? Meaning that you would have sprayed those dressers. So that is why we add what? We add work in progress. So if you're looking at the financial statement for 2002, right, this work in progress here would have been at the start of 2001. Right? Meaning that the unfinished job for 2001 becomes your opening work in progress for 2002, and this is added. Right? Next of which you need to look at to see if there is any what? Closing work in progress. Closing work in progress meaning that work in progress at the end. Now work in progress at the end would have been those unfinished goods for the year 2002. Meaning that any goods that you didn't finish complete as at the end of the year 2002. And remember that we're doing the financial statement for 2002. So at the end of the year 2002, right, there were some unfinished dressers. Right, what you'd have to do, you'd have to what? Minus it. You'd have to minus it from your production cost because they were not completed in 2002 and the assumption is that they would be completed in 2003. So they would belong to 2003. Right? So you minus work in progress at the end. You subtract work in progress at the end. So again, remember the process. You add work in progress at the start. That is the work in progress coming from the previous period because the assumption that it will be what? Completed in this period. And you less work in progress at the end, meaning that those goods that are unfinished at the end of your current period. Alright? Now once you do so, let us take it back from the top again. When you add your direct cost, which gives up your prime cost, right? Then you add your what? Factory overheads, right? Then you what? You add your work in progress at the start, and then you less your what? Work in progress at the end, and that gives you your what? PC, which is your what? Production cost. That gives you your production cost. And that pretty much takes care of the manufacturing account. Right? That takes care of the manufacturing account. And as this suggests production cost, right? This basically tells you the cost to produce those goods that you're making. That is what you're seeking to determine, right? The cost to produce those goods that you're making. And of course it is important for you to know the cost to produce those goods that you're making, because it's by you knowing that cost and the cost, by you, when you're able to determine the cost of the goods that you're producing, you'll be able to determine your markup or your margin, right? You'll be able to determine your profit your markup as it relates to profit, or you'll be able to determine your margin. Right? How much profit you want to make as it relates to goods. Right? Now, if we're supposed to assume, let us assume that, okay, your production cost is say 100,000. If your production cost, so when you add your prime cost, your factory overheads, you make adjustments to your work in progress, meaning that you add the work in progress at the start, less work in progress at the end, and it equals the production cost of 100,000. If it's a case that you would have made 2,000 dresser, if it's a case that you would have made 2,000 dresser, right, you can simply what? Divide this by the 2,000. You can divide it by the 2,000, right? And 2,000 into 100,000 gives you what? 50. Right? 2,000 into 100,000 gives you 50. Right? It gives you 50. So what this is saying to you that your cost to make a dresser is what? $50. It costs you $50 to make one dresser. Now of course, this is just basically, we're just basically using an example. We know that there is no way on earth chances are just would be made for $50, unless you're speaking about US, but it's just an example, so let's just take it for what it is, right? Your production cost divided by the number of units produced gives you your cost per unit, meaning that the cost to produce one of the items. Alright? So that is why it is important for us to calculate our production cost, because by knowing our production cost, we'll be able to determine the profit or how much we want to make, how much we want to add on the production cost that represents our profit. So there it takes care of the manufacturing account. What we want to look at now, right, what we'll be looking at next, what we'll be looking at next, right? Okay. So what we're looking at, what I want you to understand that those companies are doing manufacturing. Those companies are doing manufacturing, sometimes involved in a degree of trading, right? Meaning that they involve in a degree of trading, right? So they may very well do a what? An income statement, right? They may very well do an income statement. So they're responsible for selling those goods themselves, right? They may be responsible for selling those goods themselves. So, right? So take for example, let us fast track. Say you were a furniture store, you were making frames. You were making frames. Right? You were making frames, right? Picture frames. And those picture frames, they would have made those picture frames out of, say, board or metal. Whatever you would have made those picture frames out of, right? Now that would be your, what you do. You produce, that would have been what you manufacture. Now you realize nevertheless that it is lucrative, right? Or it is profitable for you to insert the pictures yourself, right? For you to insert pictures yourself. So you go to some painters, some artists, and name it, ask them to draw some pictures, you put them in the frame, and you're able to sell them for a higher cost, for a higher price. Right? Now, did you make those pictures? No. You would have what? Purchased those pictures, right? So those pictures are what is known as what? Finished goods. Those pictures are known as what is known as finished goods. Now, when you insert those pictures in the frame that you would have made, when those pictures are inserted in the frame that you would have made, what you basically have is a combination of the frame that you would have manufactured plus the pictures. Alright? Let us see what goes on there. So your income statement. Your income statement, what you know it to be, your sales, right? So meaning that whatever you would have sold, right? Those products that you would have made, plus if you have finished goods in those products. Right? Then you have minus your what? Return inwards, making reference to any of them that was returned to you. We're going to look at a part of the income statement, right? In that the part of the income statement that affects the manufacturing. Now we start out with our what? Lesser cost of goods sold. Now first of which we have our what? Opening stock. Now the opening stock that we're making reference to is opening stock of what? FG, which is known as what? Finished goods. So these goods are in the manufacture. So in other words, remember I was talking about the pictures earlier, right? So you manufacture picture frame. You manufacture picture frame, right? And you're manufacturing picture frame. Now you realize that some persons from the tourist industry, some persons from St. Anne's or Montego Bay, then come up and then buy those picture frames from you. Now you are selling them one of the picture frames for say $500. Now you take a visit to Montego Bay or to McGill, and you realize that you